Trend-setting compositions like The Beaches of Harris and original music compilations such as the multi-volume Antipodes collection, Mark Saul of Melbourne, Australia is regarded as one of Highland Piping's best modern creators. Now he's released Threnody, a full-length digital download album on Bandcamp. He takes his musical journey many steps further over 8 tracks that feature a multitude of instruments and guest musicians, with numerous nods to piping and Gaelic traditions. On Highland pipes, wooden flute, low whistle, synths, drum programming, and the full engineering of the album, the project is the first since his Mixolydian of 2003, so Threnody has been a long time coming.
Well, I've been working on the album for a long time, really. Most of the tunes were recorded when I was on tour, which was around 2006 to 2010. So recorded in Scotland and mostly written in Scotland. Then production has taken a long, long time after that. So I've written a few more tunes since then and recorded a whole lot of extra instruments and musicians, and taken a long time in mixing because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So it's been going on for a long time, probably longer than it should have. But finally, it's got to a point where I'm happy to release it.
Typical Mark Saul fashion, the album features an eclectic mix of musical approaches.
Well, so the Threnody album is, if you're at all familiar with my Mixolydian album, there's similar stuff on Threnody compared to Mixolydian. But I suppose with Threnody, a lot of the tracks had more of a band feel because they were written while I was on tour with my band. So there was a lot of input from the other musicians. And I do want to acknowledge that the other musicians have a massive creative input into my creative process. So yeah, compared to Mixolydian, there's more of a band feel, and it's probably another step. It's a little bit less acoustic. Like I'm releasing 2 albums this year. This one is probably the more acoustic of the 2, but this is probably another step further away from traditional folk stuff than Mixolydian. It's got a mixture of the things I like, which is electronic music and, of course, traditional music like jigs and reels and fiddles and bagpipes and flutes and all that sort of stuff. But it's certainly mixed in there with a lot of dance beats and synthesizers and rock guitars and orchestral pieces too. I like a lot of orchestral music. So yeah, personally, I have a broad taste in music, and that's probably reflected on all the music I create in my album.
As with Mixolydian, the name of the album is an unusual choice. Mark Saul is definitely a thinking person's composer, always subtle, and nothing is ever predictable.
It's kind of a requiem. It's a song for the dead, which doesn't sound very positive, really. But yeah, the feeling of the piece is I do like a bit of dark kind of sounding pieces. Like a lot of my music. There's not a single piece on this whole album or the next album that's in a major key. They're all in minor keys, and I just tend to write music that has that kind of dark edge to it.
Saul stresses that Threnody isn't a random hodgepodge of pieces. Much like his philosophy when it comes to pipe band medleys, the album is meant to work as a cohesive whole.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to do with an album, and I did on the Mixolydian album, was tie it together so that the pieces relate to each other, and it's a cohesive whole. So there's musical motifs which are common between tunes, and for me that's a bit like it's like a good pipe band medley, which has pieces which relate to each other and builds up into a musical piece. A good pipe band medley is not just good tune, good tune, good tune, good tune, good tune, end. For me, a good pipe band medley is more something that's had thought put into it over the entire thing, so that a good tune in the middle has a purpose and it relates to the musical peaks or troughs within the medley in itself. So there's musical tension and release created. So that's a bit like an album too, in a way. For me, it's the same kind of idea where you're trying to create an overall piece that someone can listen to from start to finish and have an experience rather than individual tracks.
And what's next for Mark Saul? Though his previous commercial recording was 20 years ago, his next won't take nearly as long. He even has a name for it.
Next, there's another album, and that's all recorded as well. So it's just down to the mixing process, which if I stay on track, I should get it all done by September, I'm hoping. It's another step along from this one. So this album, Threnody, is kind of introducing people to some music which is less traditional, and hopefully they'll get into it. And if you're into it, then you might like the next album, which is a further step along from that, which is more down the road of electronic beats and synthesizers, and less traditional jigs and reels and things, and more bagpipe music that's heading in a new direction, I'd say. So a lot of it's like nothing else that anyone else is doing, I don't think. So I'm pretty excited about it.
It was clear in 2011 when we did a full-length Pipes Drums interview with him. Mark Saul simply loves music, and he loves making music, whether it's composing new works for the Highland Pipes, arranging for other instruments, or pulling together leading-edge recordings. And at age 53, it seems he's only just getting started.